And here we are. Hello, Internet. Welcome to That Silverline Show on Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim TK, and I am joined, as sometimes, by Mr. Aaron Humphreys.
Hello.
And also by Jose Fuentes.
I would like to say that I'm here all the time, but yeah, that's not true. But I'm glad to be back.
Yeah,
A rough few weeks.
It's good to have you back. Mackenzie is still out, and Quentin is still conducting black operations south of the equator. So, yeah.
All hush hush.
We'll hear from him. We'll hear from him. But on today's episode, we are talking about superpowered Santas. We'll probably cover, the minor appearances of other holidays in comics, but I think the most really get for Hanukkah is a few things with Ben Grimm. I think the last Hanukkah special we got from Marvel was Ben Grimm and Moon Knight. But
I didn't actually know that either one of them were Jewish, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
For like a long time.
The Moon Knight has been like the Jewish superhero for since they revealed that Mark Spector was raised by his rabbi. So that's like the thing that everyone's like holding on to. But yeah, mostly Santas, and Santa has gotten some of the weirdest appearances in comics.
True.
So that's what we'll be kind of talking about today, and we might get into if we were to create a Santa comic, what we would do. But yeah.
There
you go. Yeah.
I know there was a Tick cartoon where he had like a bunch of Santas, and he had they were cloning Santas, and they had to cancel them out by giving them noogies. That's the only Santa thing that I remember.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember I remember I've seen all the evil horror movies about evil Santas and stuff, but I don't remember superhero stuff.
Has anyone seen
my favorite appearance of Santa is in Green Lantern? There's this the Orange Lantern Larfleeze. And there's an issue where he's on Earth and he's got this big desk and he's writing all these papers everywhere. And Hal Jordan comes up and is like, Larfleeze, what are you doing here? He's like, I live here. He's like, you're trespassing. He's like, no. Like, what are you doing here? And he goes, I've discovered your gift giver that lives in your snowy climate. And if I write him letters of the things I want, he'll bring me everything I ask for.
Speaking of violent Santa movies, has anyone seen Violent Night yet?
No,
it's not the new one.
It's the new one with David Harbour. Yeah, it's supposed to be like what happens if Santa got trapped in Die Hard.
Right?
Oh, is that what it is? I didn't pay much attention. I saw it, and I didn't pay much attention. Sorry.
I'm gonna watch it. I just haven't.
I know
it has to be on my Christmas list.
Yeah, I'll try it out this week. Yeah, it looks interesting for sure.
I'm gonna wait till my son is on Christmas break, and we're gonna watch it together.
Nice.
I know they put the Black Adam movie on HBO. I haven't watched it yet.
Oh yeah, I'll have to check that as well.
I just wanted to see the Justice Society. Like, I don't really care about Black Adam, but Dr. Fate and Hawkman look kind of cool.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
And was the dude that played Hawkman, his name Alton something? He like trained super hard. So I follow him on Instagram because I actually liked him in Leverage.
Okay. Yeah.
And he trained like crazy to play Hawkman.
All right. Well, and I know another nerd news. The Henry Cavill is going to be helming. He's going to be the Kevin Feige of 40K at Amazon. So I'm excited to see what he produces because he is a.
What do you mean?
So Henry Cavill,
right, Superman. Former
Superman. But after he left The Witcher, apparently he entered into negotiations with Games Workshop to get the rights for Warhammer 40,000.
He got it.
And then DC announced that he'd no longer be as Superman with the reboot of their cinematic universe. So then that's when he announced that he had actually hired Amazon as the studio and distribution for this 40K universe.
Mhm.
So
For a series?
it's going to be a series. It's going to eventually branch into miniseries and potentially movies.
That's crazy.
And so he said that so the first one is apparently he's on contract to US and Starren. And we don't have any news for things down the road, but apparently there are other projects, at least, are in pre-production that he is slated to produce, and they have not announced who he has hired yet to direct or write those.
That's kind of cool. That's kind of like, you know what? I don't need to be Superman. I can go on and do my own thing.
Yeah.
Well, he's such a huge Warhammer fan that he's going to be like probably one of the more accurate shows you're going to see on Warhammer, probably.
Absolutely, yeah. It's the best hope we could have gotten for it. Really, it being in his hands. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll probably. I would assume he would probably just write one of the stories from the books. I mean, I know this Warhammer is a game, but I know those fictional stories.
There is
novels.
Yeah, there's several hundred pages of. The Golden Age was Santo. It's crazy. Yes. There you go. Hello, Rory. Yep. But it'll probably be the most accurate potential we could have got for 40,000, given us how many books that he has read and how long he's been immersed in that.
And he's the producer, right?
He's the producer, yeah. So he's the guy who apparently was the one. He was the one that the rights were attached to, and he was the one who was shopping around for studios to produce it.
A live action Warhammer that'd be intense special effects. I mean, I almost think it'd be easier to almost do animation on that, but I don't know
for sure.
Because I'm just thinking the if you're being accurate to just the armor, I can't imagine how they're going to pull that off.
I mean, Henry Cavill's probably already that tall, but
I mean, just the bulk of it, it almost. I can see the only thing I can see doing with the armor that instead of you can make it practical, you can CGI the armor over the people.
Yeah. I'd imagine what they'd probably end up doing to probably be doing like how superhero movies are done now, or how Lord of the Rings was filmed, and that it's half CGI, like rotoscoped on top of live action.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking. So I'd be curious. I mean, I played some of the video games of Warhammer and stuff. I remember as a kid looking at it. Always like
I played World of Warhammer. World of Warhammer? No, that's World of Warcraft. Different thing.
Yep.
Different thing entirely.
Oh,
I had watched Warhammer.
But the rat creatures, like the rat warriors.
Oh yes, the Skaven. Yeah,
the Skaven. I always thought they were cool. They were. I always like to look at their miniatures and stuff. They're probably. I never played the game before, but I always liked that.
1 second.
He left.
I bet he went to go get miniatures.
Probably nerd.
For any of our people watching that don't know, Tim is a huge Warhammer guy, and he paints minis. And his hair looks great.
I don't have any heroes available. I do have.
Have you looked at any? Have you looked at any of the figures that Joy Toy has done?
I have looked a little bit at them. Yeah.
I know McFarlane did some, but Joy Toy looks to have the license doing the most.
So we have a commissioner. How do I get attached? So yeah. So what'll happen is the company. What usually happens is that a person will create a intellectual property, and if they're working for a company, they can, depending on their contract, the rights will either be held by the creator or held by the company that created them. Because Warhammer 40,000 started out as a tabletop game, the rights were held by the company that created the tabletop game, Rogue Trader. And then it became Warhammer 40,000 during second edition, actually. The first edition was called Rogue Trader.
Yeah. Warhammer was originally a fantasy game, and then they added the sci-fi element to it later on. They split it into two. They started both.
They had the Warhammer Fantasy Battles and Rogue Trader, and then they created Warhammer 40,000 to kind of marry it.
I was going to say, it wasn't two different things. It wasn't like...
Yeah. What will then happen is, if you're trying to create rights for an adaptation, usually what a lot of companies do is they'll sell the rights directly to another production company to act as the executive producer, and then that company will hire then the producers, directors, and they don't need that. Or how Harvey Weinstein, before we found out that he was not the best person. Yeah, we like all of his stuff worked is that he would personally buy the rights, and then he would produce it through his own company, A24, or what have you, or the Weinstein Company. So this is a kind of similar situation, only Henry Cavill doesn't have his own studio. So Henry Cavill was the one who's negotiated with the rights. Then he got a writer from Vertigo, and then they shopped around to different studios that they would hire to be their production hub. So essentially, Henry Cavill is the final say because he's the one who's hired Amazon for this. Whereas, like with Lord of the Rings, the Tolkien estate sold the rights to Amazon to then find a director for.
Director, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like I said, he's definitely like the biggest fan. So
definitely one of those public ones too.
yeah. Like so, I mean, I remember
like
him
Joe Manganiello in D&D.
Yeah, like Joe Manganiello in D&D.
Yeah. I'd be curious to see it. I mean, they're bringing the D&D movie, which
I can either
you could either take. I mean, technically, if you want to get into it, I mean, you could just say Lord of the Rings is D&D adjacent, since they were both, D&D was heavily
but yeah,
inspired by Lord of the Rings. But again, it's one of those things where
D&D has developed such a unique flavor, though, with their own lore, because it is definitely a lot more high fantasy than Lord of the Rings was. Being very much like, giant flying cities and all that.
Well, it looks like basically what they're trying to do is the Legend of Nox Machina.
Yeah,
they're trying to put their own spin on, like a movie version.
Yeah, which I feel like they should have just kept writing the Critical Role stuff, or even like hired a Critical Role staff as story writers, because that's what they've been doing for like the past 10 years. But I want to have hope, but I remember the last D&D movie.
Oh, it's horrible.
I remember the last time they tried this.
What didn't they do?
Wait, the one with Marlon Wayans, right? That's the one that had Jimmy Olsen in it, right?
Yeah.
Was it?
That was fantastic.
Was it World of Warcraft? They did the one with the CGI trolls. That was like the main character is one of the trolls or something.
Yeah, that one where they're doing the story of I haven't played WoW in so long. I forgot his name. Thrall's parents. Yeah, they're telling the story of Durotar or Durotan, and Varian Wynn's dad as well.
Yeah, I mean, strangely enough, I remember seeing that movie, and even though I'm not a huge, I don't play the games as much. I for a movie itself, I didn't think it was bad. I thought it was okay.
Yeah, it wasn't the worst, but definitely it's one of those things where so the way I rate movies is was it fun, and did it stick with me? So I would say that WoW was fun, but it didn't stick with me. It's like I won't say no to watching it, but there's no moments that really stuck with me. But
I think that's the hardest part. I mean, when they do Lord of the Rings, you're doing it based on an original story. There's no real original story for like D&D or Warhammer or Warcraft.
For Warhammer, there is now definitely. I'd say also with D&D, if they're going to do it, they should do stuff that's based off of I don't know if this is going to be Forgotten Realms or Greyhawk,
right?
Or the world that the Dragons of Autumn Twilight stuff is based in.
Right, but most people don't know that. I mean, my thing is, even though that's an original story, most people go see Lord of the Rings. Oh, this is based on books. This is the original story. If you went and saw the original stories that started at Warcraft and Warhammer, the original backstories of the original games, you'll know that most of the people would just think, well, this is just an episode. It's always been very hard to translate video game stories to movies because you try to encompass the entire game world in a movie, and it's just not possible. So no matter what you do, somebody's going to be disappointed.
100%. Yeah, I mean.
And so, trying to put all of Warcraft, it's like it's almost like you defeated before you start because there's just so much like D&D. I mean, there were so many ways they could take that, and every way you could do serious, you could do comedy, you could do horror, and they'd all be viable.
Yeah,
but it never be the true D&D that's up to the fans.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like, honestly, I think Warhammer made the right choice in telling the story of Durotan and Keen Win, because that all happens in Warcraft 1. Like, that's just the story of Warcraft 1.
Yeah.
Before we even get to like the MMO and everything, and it was designed to be like a nice like rep thing, because they didn't think they're going to get Warcraft 2. So it's just, yeah, bad guys come, they're not really bad. Fight Gul'dan. Promised orc baby gets given to the humans.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't mind the movie. It didn't, they wanted to have it start like if everything was supposed to be a franchise.
Everything's going to be a franchise now.
It never did. I just know that every time they try to do fantasy movies based on especially a video game property, it just never works.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel like it, and I don't know. I mean, it's the same thing every time they try to put movies into video games. They miss something every time they put video games. I mean, even the new Mario movie looks okay, but again, it's like, is it Mario? It's
it's not John
Pixar version of Mario.
Right?
What?
It's not John Leguizamo Luigi, but it's sure to be all right.
But it's like a Pixar version of Mario.
Yeah, well, like it might seem as like pandering to like Gen X and older millennials, which it is, but what I think they should have done for the D&D movie is make it based off Drizzt, because essentially you just make it like you just combine a little bit of Sandman, like you get an emo man character, you film it like Pirates of the Caribbean, and you set it in the frozen north. Like, you can just make like a solid movie there, without you can get
they did a pretty good job of like portraying the frozen north in Game of Thrones, so like they could easily do a horror movie. And man, don't get me wrong, like I would jump at a chance to watch freaking Drizzt Do'Urden in a live action movie.
Oh yeah, it might seem like it's pandering to people who'd fall into Gen X or elder millennials, but I mean,
please pander to me.
Yes.
Hollywood, pander to me.
I don't know. Every time I've seen people try to attempt these things multiple times, and they all fizzle and burn out. And I mean, they tried to take a Warhammer movie. I'm not Warhammer, Gears of War, and I'm like,
I know Batista's petitioning super hard to make him to be Marcus.
I mean, the funny thing, I've been playing the Gears of War series, and I like him, but besides the chainsaw thing and the fact that they started the cover system, it's just not much to them. I don't know.
The storyline doesn't pick up until.
Quiet, dude. I shed a tear when Dominic. I'm not even going to.
I do love the Gears franchise, but I will say the story doesn't really get started until like halfway through 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It took. I mean, is enough to hold a movie. The one video game I always thought in actually making this is Metal Gear. Just make Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah, actually,
I know. It's already set up to be a movie.
Yeah, I know. I think it's still in production hell, but there is. We do have confirmation that a Metal Gear Solid script has been written, and that Oscar Isaac said that he has already like essentially talked to the writer of that script. Said that he'll play Solid Snake and he'll fight anyone else who wants to do it.
Wait, I want to see that Thunderdome style.
Right.
There's a part of me that I can see him as Solid Snake, and there's a part of me that doesn't.
I got a lot of faith in Oscar Isaac after I'm sure he was actually in this movie. Triple Frontier. In Triple Frontier, he essentially already played Solid Snake, so just do that again.
Because I mean, let's be honest, Solid Snake is based off Kurt Russell.
Oh yeah,
and I am sorry,
Kurt Russell like 300 years old.
Yeah, I know, but the thing is I don't see this guy doing Kurt Russell.
Yeah, but I get Snake kind of became his own guy. Is that you definitely had like the Kurt Russell definitely like inspiration and Twin Snakes and Sons of Liberty, but when you get into Snake Eater, Guns of the Patriots, it definitely feels a little bit. It almost feels Specifically, like Clint Eastwood or Jeff Bridges in True Grit.
Maybe a little. Yeah. The only thing I can see, I don't know. I can see Oscar. I'd have to see him with long hair. As dumb as it is, I can maybe see him as Snake. I don't know. He's such an iconic character to me that, I mean, why don't they just make Kurt Russell's son Snake?
There you go. Anyway,
he looks like his dad. I mean, oh my God, the guy looks like his dad. He's a little young, but the only thing I worry about that they're going to do with the Solid Snake movie is they're going to take out the fantasy elements.
Right.
And then that's going to be kind of a bummer. They're going to take out the mystical, because that was what made Solid a lot of the Metal Gears is there was a mix of like this sci-fi realism and this fantasy part that they had.
Yeah, well, the fantasy stuff is all fueled by like nanomachines and stuff. Like,
like Vamp who's running off the side of walls and stuff. Yeah.
How does this work? Nanomachines. All right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, and he said he had plausible ideas of how they work, but I mean, like lightning. We shoot a gun that would shoot lightning bolts, and even in the first one when they had the shaman guy, I can't remember his name. Was it Shaman? It was
Raven Shaman or
Raven Shaman.
Another thing. I never made it past Metal Gear.
Yeah.
The old arcade game or the one that got put on PlayStation and GameCube?
Wasn't it on like Sega or Nintendo?
Yeah, so that was Metal Gear, and then Metal Gear 2, and then Metal Gear Solid,
Never made it past that game.
Yeah. Well, again, it's one of those things where like the story doesn't really start until Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah, the first two you can read about. In fact, I got the collection and it includes the NES games, but I ain't playing those again.
No,
I played the first one when I was a kid.
Yeah, those ones I went back and played just to say I did, and then I immediately went back and played the other ones again. But I have beaten every Metal Gear Solid on European Extreme at least twice. So if I have hope, I think anyone can.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd be curious to see. I can see Metal Gear, but again, there's also he did so much stuff with the video games, like even especially Metal Gear 2. I can't see Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty being Metal Gear without the video game, because there were so many intrinsic things that he did with the video game system in the story by breaking the fourth wall.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see how he'd be able to pull that in movies. Maybe he'd figure out some way, but I don't know how he would do that.
He figured it out. They watched She-Hulk.
Oh, he figured out, because I know Hideo said that he originally wanted to make Metal Gear Solid as a movie, but no one studio would do it. So instead, he got Konami to make a game about it.
Yeah.
So,
I'd be curious to see now how he. I know we talked about Death Stranding last time. Apparently, he has a new game that's not Death Stranding that he's making also.
Yeah, he has Death Stranding 2, apparently Death Stranding movie, and then also something that may or may not be the actual reincarnation of PT.
There's been rumors that because Konami brought back Silent Hill, I just always assume why didn't you just make PT and just take off the Silent Hill name? I don't think anyone's gonna care.
Yeah, which I think that's what his plan is, to make some version of PT that'll be completely unbranded. So people would know that it is the next Silent Hill, but it's not. It wouldn't officially be it.
That PT did? You ever see that somebody actually broke the game? It cracked the code and realized that the lady follows you the entire time.
Oh yeah.
She's always right behind you.
Yes.
And so he was able to break it and turn around and see that. I'm like, oh, that's creepy.
Yeah.
Anyway, that one demo was great. But it's one of those things I'd love to see more of that. I've never seen he's gotten a little bit in the horror in the Metal Gears, but I'd be curious to see his straight up take on horror and how.
And it was Vulcan Raven. It's Vulcan Raven. Vulcan Raven, and Colonel Campbell introduces him as Giant and Shaman.
That's right.
Yeah.
Giant Shaman. Yeah, because he's supposed to be magic. I mean, they could do Sniper Wolf really easy.
Oh yeah.
But there's a few that he always does weird. Vamp would be the hardest, and even in the game, they never really explained why Vamp was invincible.
Yeah, I feel if they, as long as they don't get into the newer, the next gen machines that create Vamp and Decoy Octopus and all them.
Yeah,
it's just taped to the
original cast.
Original cast, yeah. Either was it the Foxconn Gen 1, which is those are all the bad guys from MGS 1 that Snake was on their team, and then I don't even know if you could do Red Cell because you get Vamp in the Vamp. I could see actually because you just film him the same way you filmed the Blade series. But
one of the guys when you
Fat Man would be interesting.
Fat Man would be because he's on rollerblades. So
he's on rollerblades, and he's just a dude who works around monologuing in a bomb jacket.
I mean, the ninja would be worth it.
Yeah.
I know in the original game when you go into the cell to rescue the DARPA chief, he was actually supposed to be. He wasn't a DARPA chief. He was actually like a decoy.
Yeah. Originally, it was. I think that was because I think Decoy Octopus gets named twice. I can't remember if that one was also named Decoy Octopus because I know Decoy Octopus also comes.
That's what I want to say because you find out why didn't you fight this? You did, but they killed him.
Yeah,
because the DARPA chief I think had been killed a while ago, and they
killed him a while ago. And you find out that they had actually injected Snake with Fox dye, so anyone who had the Foxconn implant would start dying when they got in contact with them.
Yeah. I remember that.
And we're just going over Metal Gear Solid lore now. Anyway, Santa's.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. Santa's. So we kind of mentioned one of my favorite appearances of Santa is in the Marvel Comics as an Omega level mutant. But before that, he's an Omega level mutant. He's quite possibly that Santa is actually the most powerful being who lives on Earth.
Oh, and he's an actual being?
Yeah. Because he's supposed to be. They had this weird moment where Namor was the first mutant, Santa was mutant perfected.
Namor was supposed to be the first mutant? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Because of the whole, they actually explained it fairly well in the movie. It's kind of you do some weird mysticism stuff, it ends up impacting your DNA, you're going to end up creating a race of mutants.
I thought Apocalypse was the first mutant.
Ensat Venur was he was technically born after Namor, but I believe he's also mostly space stuff. So I think that was the distinction there. But Namor is supposed to be almost prehistoric.
You mean with his little wings?
Yeah, with little wings. They did the impossible and made the wings cool. He can actually use them to fight at super fast. Dope.
Again, I just never.
I didn't see the movie, but I saw clips of the trailer, and it reminded me of was it Jupiter Rising or something like that? With
when he was skating on the skates.
Yeah,
Yes.
Well, I think he had wings on his boots or whatever. So he was almost like he was rollerblading, and that's kind of what it reminded me.
Yeah, there were anti-gravity boots, levitating boots. He didn't have any wings on his feet. I never got why they put wings on a guy who swims on the water. Shouldn't he have fins?
Everyone on Marvel was on drugs.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, because I always wondered, was Namor originally supposed to be an underwater character, or was he supposed to be something else? And they just because the wings to never.
I think the wings are actually a later thing because he was originally just introduced as the Submariner, and then when they
he had wings when he was in the Invaders and whatnot. He had wings on his feet.
Yeah, but I think when he had his pop up, we're that's a Submariner, and then we actually get an issue with him, he has wings on his feet. Why?
They never called him that in the movie, which kind of bummed me because that was his nickname, was a Submariner.
Yeah. But anyway,
did he yell out Imperious Rex? Oh.
Yes. He actually, he yelled it out, and then also he used it as an insult, which I thought was really interesting. The fact where he's fighting. Spoilers. I don't know if people care at this point. It's been over 2 weeks. But obviously he fights Shuri because it's the invasion of Wakanda, and there's a moment where Namor turns to her and calls her Imperious Rex. He's like, no, actually, he's like, I reconsider this. You're actually the dictator here. Calm down.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It was. I've noticed some Marvel movies have kind of gotten away from superhero stuff. They're more high-tech soldiers or whatever.
Yeah,
I know they go on these grand cosmic adventures, but I don't see a lot of superheroing, I guess you could say.
Yeah, well, not all spiel stuff. I know that they've always been like into Marvel's always been very sci-fi based because that was Stanley's thing. He said like a superhero always needs to have an explanation, no matter how shoddy the science is. There needs to be something there. DC at points like he does this because he does it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I like him.
Yeah. What's it going to do? Santa. So Santa and Marvel, before we got the confirmation that he is Omega level mutant, he had a ongoing rivalry with Adolf Hitler.
Did he really?
So, yeah.
Didn't they have I know there's a Santa Claus, but didn't they have like a Wolverine Santa crossover?
Yes, but in this one in particular, they had a couple issues of Captain America and the Marvel Age where Santa gets kidnapped by Adolf Hitler, and Adolf Hitler plans on using him as a propaganda piece to get the United States to quit the war. So Franklin Roosevelt personally reaches out to Sergeant Fury, Steve Rogers, and Bucky to go save Santa. So you have a full volume that's this task force and Franklin Roosevelt saving Santa from Hitler. Several years later, Hate Monger, who was a clone of Hitler, attacks New York using his nuclear bomb. I believe it was like called the H bomb or something. Santa, at this point, it's been confirmed as an Omega level mutant, and he remembers what Hitler did all those years ago. So he drives by the pilot of Hate Monger's personal jet and ends up like forcing him to go off course and flying into his own nuclear bomb that was being carried next to him. So in the Marvel timeline, Santa has nuked a Hitler clone.
He ran into his bomb and blew it up.
Yeah, Santa essentially like pit maneuvered Santa pit maneuvered Hate Monger's plane with his sleigh and like corralled it into a nuclear bomb.
But the nuclear bomb still wouldn't blow. Well, I mean, it's a comic book, so
it's a comic, yeah. That's a comic. If you look at a car the wrong way, it's gonna blow up.
Santa Claus also got the crap beat out of him and whatnot by Lobo in DC Comics.
Yes.
The Easter Bunny contracted Lobo to kill Santa.
Oh, that's right. What was the name of that one? It was like Lobo in DC. I remember. I remember that cover.
Yeah, that one was Lobo's Christmas special.
Okay.
That's what it was called. But I guess Santa was a jerk in that one, and like was kind of like this like pretty buff, like friggin' like just mean guy.
Yeah, he was domineering the other holidays.
Yeah.
Yeah, the paramilitary Christmas special, Lobo. Yeah. Do you think they're actually going to bring Lobo to the movies?
I feel like Lobo's a very James Gunn character, so with James Gunn now being in charge, that makes sense.
Yeah. The only thing I wonder is if they would ever see, the thing about Lobo is Lobo's just like basically like kind of evil. He's like an evil sort of like on the power level of Superman. So it's like they could do him, but would they go full bore how they do him in the comics? Because I mean, he's worse than like Deadpool and all of them. And I think he ends up like killing an entire planet.
Yeah, I feel like
his own planet.
It's his own planet.
Yeah. He killed his own people. Yeah.
But the previous leadership, I don't think DC would have. I think now they might.
I don't know. I'd be curious. I don't know. I mean, I'd be curious to see. I know people have said Jason Momoa would make a good Lobo, and I could see that.
Well, Jason Momoa said like his dream role would be to play Lobo. Like he actually like made it out comment out saying that's what he wanted to play Lobo.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I know like DC, they've been going in a new direction. I know James Gunn, it's going to get more like Suicide Squad type stuff than it will go back to like Justice League of those heroes. Because I think everything's going to be like this obscure weird comedy thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There's a part of me that's like James Gunn is in charge. What?
I'm not a fan of James Gunn. Like I know he's done a few movies that are pretty good, but like as a whole, I'm not really a huge fan.
No, I'm not either.
No disrespect to to him and his art as a director and stuff like that, but like it's just like I go into his movies and I was like, okay, I just want to be entertained. You know what I mean? I go into most movies that way. That's why I don't get upset about like comic book movies or other movies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That like if they have like a fan base before and you go into them and you're like oh, it didn't do this and it didn't do that. Like I was like, listen, I go in there blindly, and if I'm entertained, that's all I care about.
Yeah.
Right? So, but there's a few movies like that he's done, but like as a whole, I'm really not a big fan.
Yeah. I think with most movies or adaptations, that's like my rating system is like, is it good or does it stick with me? Kind of come from, comics already have a hard enough time keeping continuity from an issue to the next. To expect a movie to like recapture that, I'm like, it's going to be its own weird side canon. I don't care. It's as long as it's its own thing and it's fun.
Well, it's funny because this Suicide Squad, the first Suicide Squad movie, I thought was okay, but the second one by James Gunn just was overly complicated plot for no reason at all. Like
I didn't like it.
On the subplot of the subplot, and some of the jokes he makes, like all the male genitalia jokes, like are kind of dumb. I know. I remember watching that movie, and I'm like, I know it's kind of absurd, the Suicide Squad concept, but he just goes goofy, and I just was watching the second Suicide Squad. I'm like, so all DC Universe is going to be like this now? Well, that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I thought. Is like, that's gonna suck.
I actually enjoyed the new Suicide Squad. My one weird issue was I'm the one person I know who likes Ricochet, so to have him go out in like the first 5 minutes was kind of like, oh, that's a bummer. But
yeah, there is I remember watching that movie, and by the end of it, I was like, I generally know what's happening, but I just don't care. I just didn't care anymore. Same thing with the first Guardians of the Galaxy was good. The second one, he just gives over. I know they're making a third one, but the second one, I don't remember much happening except a bunch of images flashing at the end and a bunch of stuff. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, Kurt Russell, you really should be in a better movie than this.
Didn't he? Who did Ragnarok? He did Ragnarok, right?
No, that's Taika
Waititi. And I like his TV show. I like his Reservation Dogs. I thought was funny.
Taika
Waititi was a great show.
Yeah, I like what we do in the show. I like his own stuff, but when he goes to Marvel, no, I don't like it. I just don't think that style of humor works with superhero movies. I think it's just they've made everything into a huge joke, and it's like there's a difference between making a few jokes and then making the entire story one huge joke, and that's what I feel like a lot of these movies are just. And I know Marvel's doubled down on the humor, and I don't think it's working anymore. There was a good mix in the older movies of like humor and stuff, and ever since Joss Whedon did the Avengers, they just doubled down on that, and it's gotten worse and worse and worse.
Right.
So, my favorite one's still the first Captain America movie.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was my favorite one so far.
Okay.
Wait, the Marvel Captain America or the OG like?
Marvel one. Yeah. No, the one with the fake ears. No, the Marvel Captain America was my favorite one. I did like his Winter Soldier. I thought that was good, but I just like the. I like him in World War II, and that's why I thought that worked. But beyond that, I honestly don't remember much from any of the other movies. Like I remember flashes of images. This has been way too much stuff. So I'm like, I remember little bits here and there, but not much.
I am appreciating the break we're having now because like I did feel like we were like in content overload. So I feel like Marvel will be like, we're just gonna do like TV shows and like we're gonna do like only 3 movies max this year. Like, okay, great, good. 30 minutes once a week is fine.
Yeah. Wakanda, didn't they announce like 2 other movies already? They did the Ant-Man trailer, but wasn't there another Marvel movie they announced?
Armor Wars got turned from a TV show to a movie.
Did it really?
Yeah. I think they're filming that, and I think what happens is Riri for Wakanda screened really well, and then also as they're filming, they looked at the budget and like, we can't do this on a TV show. There's so many giant robot suits fighting each other. We need more money.
Right?
Yeah.
Was it I don't know, was it Stiltman? There's freaking Manta Ray or some crap like that. I know there's a bunch of weird ones that they brought in and just turned the was it when they sold the Iron Man armor over the black market and they bad guys were turning like into weird bad guys stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. What
was this? In case anybody doesn't know the basic plot of that one.
Oh, the Armor Wars comic, you mean?
Yeah, I think that's kind of what they're because Robert Downey Jr. didn't renew. I think that's what they're going with a. Also, we might be getting what's his name, the guy who was the CEO of Arm Industries, the guy from Iron Man 3.
The guy that glowed.
Yeah,
Stein.
Yeah,
first with the S.
Right, but he might be coming back, and I believe that the fan theory is with Tony Stark dying, his and all the chaos that happened after Infinity War. Arm essentially broke into his house, stole his armor, tried to reproduce it, and sold a bunch of it off to anyone who would pay. So,
I never paid. Even as a kid, I never liked it. Like I said, because I was in Appleseed and I looked at the mecha in Appleseed. I looked at Iron Man. I'm like, stupid. And went back to manga. I was a robot snob, so I'm like, that's not a robot. I don't know what that is. And so, even when they started putting Iron Man into a mecha type armor, I'm like, too late.
Right. I did like this up. I think it's funny that the character with the biggest mech in Marvel is actually a Spider-Man, and it's the Japanese Spider-Girl.
Yeah, that has like the round Marvel.
Yeah,
my friend has a really cool action figure of that character or that mech. It's pretty cool.
It's really dope.
The big Spider-Man thing?
Yeah.
From Spider-Verse?
Spider-Verse, yeah.
Yeah.
She got some more stuff coming in now. So like she'll occasionally get pulled into the random multi-dimensional storylines. Parker Industries was a big one for that because they're like, what happens if I have Peter Parker? Let's like head up a bunch of like science research with a bunch of talented youth. It's like, well, someone's breaking the timeline every Tuesday, so like we're getting someone pulled in just because.
Yeah, I never was a big that was the thing comic books kind of did forever, but I was never a big fan of like if a superhero is popular, you must make 1,001 incarnations.
Hammer, right? Justin Hammer. Sorry,
Justin Hammer. Yeah.
Hammer Industries.
I mean, Batman made a little sense because anyone could put on a cape and run around and fight crime, but that somebody, I mean, it's Spider-Man, but all the different Spider-Mans are out there. It's like,
I like the principle that the whole, the actual, like, was it in the Spider-Verse storyline with Madam Web and whatever that family was that were eating Spider-Man? Yeah. That particular, like when I saw that they were doing the Into the Spider-Man movie, I was like, "Oh, that's gonna be awesome!" Because that one brother that like betrays the rest of the family with the freaking fish like deep dive helmet, I thought he was super cool. And then I'm like, "Oh wait, it's nothing like that."
It's not. Yeah, no,
it's like missed opportunity.
Yeah, but we are supposedly getting a Madam Web in the future, so
yeah,
we have hopes.
I'm excited that apparently this is rumors and hopefully it's true. But they're actually going to make a sequel to Dredd.
Yes, I know that's been in the works for a while.
Yeah, and that Carl Urban's connected because they were eventually going to go out into the wastelands, the.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm a Stallone fan for days. I grew up being a Stallone fan.
Carl Urban killed that role,
right? Yeah, I mean, wow.
Yeah, and so that was probably the most accurate take on a comic book character I've seen, even more than the Marvel movies.
No,
it's just nailing what that character's all about.
Or Shaq's Steel.
What?
Shaq's Steel.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah, but in a weird ADHD tangent. So Carl Urban also similar character playing the head executioner of the Necromongers in
Riddick.
We found out. So I was at the game shop the other day. We were playing a game called Infinity. And we're just kind of hanging out afterwards as the owner was shutting down. We got off on a talking about movies and stuff, and we were wondering, Riddick has to have a first name, right? Because he's just called Riddick.
Yeah.
Found out, and this has to be something that it's yeah. But anyway, that's something that freaking the guy came up with himself, because there's no way that like a writer or someone passes through QA and edits. Riddick's first name is Richard.
Well, yeah, it's Richard P. Riddick.
It's Richard Brian Riddick. His name is Dick Riddick.
Yeah, they say that in the first movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did they really?
Yeah, the first movie.
Why don't I remember that?
Yeah, it was like I think the first movie that Richard P. Riddick. Yeah, because he was talking to him.
Yeah.
Yeah. You didn't know Riddick was his last name?
We knew his last name, but it was like you guys have like a first name, right? And you have like, a world where like he's part of a race called the Furians. He's fighting like the ancient enemies, the Necromongers. You have the guys like named like Davian and Arcturus and all sorts of like.
And his name's Richard.
It's Richard.
Yeah. It's one of those things that when you find it. Well, I think the thing is when they made the first movie, they said, because I think it was the cop. One of the people were talking to the cops, and he said Riddick's full name. It was like Richard P. Riddick or whatever. Like they said his full name in the first movie somewhere. Yeah. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, and, okay, I got you.
But they never expected to make a sequel, so they were just taking that as like that's just his name. They didn't have the Furians or any of that stuff. And so it was.
Oh yeah, all that was added in like way later.
Yeah, he was just a con. And so of course when they retcon all the other stuff, and it sounds goofy. But in the original Pitch Black, I mean, it just sounded. I mean, his name was Richard P. Riddick. He was a con.
I don't know if they give us the fact that the B stands for Brian in the first one, or if we don't get it until like Assault on Dark Athena.
Well, it's Richard P. Riddick, not B.
No, it's Brian. According to the IMDb or the documentation, it's Richard B. It's Richard Brian.
I think I was going to say they're wrong on that, because I swear to God, it was Richard P. Riddick.
It probably was, but they probably just retconned it.
Yeah, that's what I remember. His Richard P. Riddick, because I remember the P being weird. Them saying that.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's officially Richard Brian Riddick.
Yeah, I got that. I'm gonna listen to that movie again because I have all those movies. I bet your money. And now I want to listen to that lineman Richard, because I bet your money it's P and they just retconned it like you
probably.
Said.
I mean, they like the entire series is just retconning, and then you get to like the third movie, and I'm like, what if you just retcon the second movie again?
Well, I felt was it Chronicle to Riddick?
Yeah.
I think Chronicle to Riddick, because I liked it. Pitch Black's great, but Chronicle to Riddick, I felt like, I don't know. I enjoyed the fact that they expanded like the Riddick mythos, like universe and whatnot. Like I thought that was fantastic, because just the idea of I don't know, it turned it from like just a running from monsters movie to an actual like sci-fi kind of like genre.
Yeah, strangely enough, when I first saw Chronicles of Riddick, I didn't like it. But over the years, it's grown on me. Especially the second part when they're running, trying to beat the sun. That felt very Pitch Black to me. That sort of concept. Yeah. I really liked that whole at the end with like, because I mean there is actual plan. I mean people talk about it doesn't rotate, but Mercury is literally one side of it. You can melt lead on, the other side is almost frozen because it doesn't rotate in its axis, and one side's always facing the sun. So there actually are planets like that, but they don't. There's not a sunset. It's just like there's literally a dividing line where you can kind of go over.
That's. Chronicles of Riddick is one of those movies where like it's fun and it sticks with me, but acknowledges it's an absolute dumpster fire.
Yeah,
yeah.
Well, like Vin Diesel's a huge Dungeons and Dragons fan, so you could see that when he made Chronicles of Riddick, he was taking in all his fantasy D&D love into that universe, and it didn't necessarily fit based on Pitch Black, but it was something he wanted because he took the characters like, well, I'm going to make my own thing out of it, and some of it works and some of it doesn't, like the Furian thing or whatever, and they made him bigger out than he's supposed to be. He's supposed to be some chosen, one, I don't know if chosen one, but like the last of Furians or whatever.
Yeah.
I did think the third one went back to kind of basics. It's more of a retread of Pitch Black.
Where the Necromongers dropped him off on the planet.
Yeah, Necromongers got stuck there with him. Yeah.
Well, apparently the original, he was supposed to go to the Underverse, like lead an army into the Underverse.
Yeah.
And they said they still might do that. He figured out that Riddick works on a smaller budget. Yeah. And I think it does. I think it works as more of a character study than the big grandiose, because the stars really Riddick. Mm-hmm. But I know he's doing a fourth one, and his idea was to make a small budget movie, big budget movie, small budget. They go back and forth because he owns the character, I think now.
Yeah,
Diesel does.
Yeah, when he said he produced it, I believe the studio didn't want anything to like do with it. It's like, don't just produce it, just buy everything. We'll give it to you for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah, and they did, and he turned it in. Well, there's an anime, I think it's an hour anime that explains what happened between Pitch Black going in the Chronicles.
Talking about Dark Fury?
Yeah. It explains how it's that little like connection.
Dark Fury is pretty sweet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, I'm not a big like anime fan, but that was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It was very, very Eon Flux-esque.
Well, it's the same guy.
In like regard to its style, yeah.
Yeah, it's the same guy who did Eon Flux.
Oh, was it? Look at that, man. I'm winning tonight.
There you go. Yeah. Before we go, other Santa stuff that I think is hilarious. Justice League of America, number 110. Key murder Santa Claus.
The Key does?
Yeah.
And you're always getting axed in these comics.
Yeah, and this is Santa was going to an orphanage that Batman and Superman were helping orchestrate like a thing on, because they're also orphans. So
I remember my favorite Christmas story was the X-Men one when they were in the Outback. Do you remember this one, Tim?
I don't.
It was the one where they had found that Longshot could read. The Rebirth had stolen all of this loot. They had used the Aborigine guy that spun the board. I can't remember his name. Gateway.
Yeah.
And the Reavers were going through and then robbing everybody, coming back and hoarding this huge stash in the Outback town. And it turned out Longshot had the ability to read like the items where they were from, like read the history of the items. And so he went through and read the history of each item, and then the X-Men used Gateway to return all the items back to the original owner. And they did it on Christmas Eve.
Nice.
Wow, Tim, you're an X-Men fan. You don't know this one?
No, I mean, yeah.
You just lost all cred, dude. Sorry, man.
Weird.
There goes your street cred.
Apparently. Sorry, man. Yeah. And because it was kind of a way for them to be like Santa Claus, but not actually have Santa Claus. It was like a one-issue thing, but it was fun. And they're apparently able to go in one night and do all. I mean, of course, that's impossible, but they're actually able to do that, because that's the first time they introduced Longshot's power to do that.
Right.
He had luck, and he was light. His bones were hollow, so he was very light. But then they also added the ability to him to like read the ghost of history of items.
Interesting. Okay, cool.
Yeah. They had a bunch of powers. His bones are supposed to be hollow. I remember that.
They are hollow.
Mm-hmm. So that's why he could flip around so much. Wonder. I'm kind of.
Hey.
Well, there's the Christmas one where Kitty Pryde encounters, I think it was not the Brood, that's the one where she first finds Lockheed.
It's Naga something, not
yeah.
Yeah,
it was like
the weird
alien. It was like they came back from a mission from space, and they brought the alien, and they also brought Lockheed, who had like hitched a ride on the jet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they found Lockheed literally in the Lockheed hangar, so that's why.
Yep.
That's why he got the name.
And it's the I remember the dragon thing. Yeah, I think the X-Men issue I'm talking about is issue 230. So if you look that up, that's all.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. If you read the description, that's what it was about. So it didn't even really have a Christmassy theme look on the cover.
No, yeah.
That's what it was about.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's one of the ones where
that Silver Street.
Yeah, it was Silver Street is I saw a lot of New Mutants in there. Okay.
Yeah. There was the other Christmas one I thought was interesting. Was this done by Barry Windsor Smith that had the power pack actually find Wolverine hurt. He'd been fighting Lady Deathstrike or something, and they found Wolverine in the snow, and the power pack helped him recover or something.
Yeah.
But the one with like long shot, 230. If you ever just look it up or find it or something, it was a one issue thing, but I thought it was kind of a cool concept. My favorite time period in the X-Men is when they're in the Outback after they left. Okay. I never liked them in the Xavier School. I never liked them when they were in the school. I liked that when they were like on the run. That was my favorite time.
I like Xavier School. I also liked Utopia. Utopia was kind of an interesting time.
Was that the one with the island? No, was that? Oh, that was the meteor.
You had Asteroid M, but Utopia was an island that they had off San Francisco. Essentially, they had repurposed Alcatraz.
Yeah,
and this is one of the this is the longest that Xavier stayed dead, I think. But Scott was kind of going at a really weird moment where like he had 10 years of Scott going down the warpath and getting more and more hardline.
Yeah,
and this is why he's married to Emma Frost, and Emma Frost flipped and had to be the voice of reason. Like, hey, I just left a genocidal maniac. Maybe don't.
Yeah, I know he eventually get some of the Phoenix power. I only saw images of that. I know. I never.
That was like, was it? That was the end of Phoenix song. It was called something else.
Yeah, that was AVX. The were the Phoenix 4 and then AVX, but it all got bundled under AVX.
Was that the one we started actually putting the cross on his eyes instead of the glasses?
That's when it started getting confusing.
That happened in Remender, I think, later down the line.
So Utopia wasn't the same as the Genosha Island, right?
Right, no. Genosha is a different thing.
No, Genosha different. Genosha was the island that they enslaved mutants, but they said, "Oh, we're helping them."
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I know Genosha. I just remember that Magneto took it over, declared it a nation, then the Sentinels wiped it out.
Yeah. Yeah, it was essentially it was like concentration camp. Magneto said like, no, we're making an independent state now.
And now I just read somewhere that the X-Men have their own planet.
Planet X. They essentially launched Krakoa. Yeah, they were like, hey, we got Krakoa. We got able to defend our own state now. We're going to try and coexist here. And then the humans said, nope, still none of that. So like, okay, we're just going to go to space. You guys, peace out.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like, I don't know. It seemed it wasn't the original one to try to see if the mutants could live with humans. And I guess that failed.
Yeah, the mission goal is always to find a way to peacefully coexist. But I mean, if you find a way to coexist, then you kind of lose the point of the X-Men. So they introduce new bats who are increasingly violent in their ways of intolerance. So
then they started making X-Men respawn points.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it seemed weird if you take them out of the humans, if there's no one to fear and hate them, then aren't they just like basically like the Inhumans or whatever on another planet?
Exactly. Yeah. So they're still tied in because I believe they still keep their gateways open because they have like defensive treaties with the United States and a few other governments saying like, we'll come and protect you. Just try not to launch nukes at us.
I don't know. The X-Men kind of. I mean, I quit reading when Claremont left. I read some of Jim Lee's stuff, but then I would pop in here. I'd read like some of the and most of the new X-Men stuff I read just wasn't my thing. My friend gave me a bunch of stuff from the Krakoa Island stuff. Some was okay, and some was.
I say if we want to get some of the best from Krakoa actually isn't mainline. It's X-Force and Marauders.
See, I like the Marauders one only because it's pirate themed. Yeah. But I have friends who are like, "Oh, that's garbage." Blah blah. Like, dude, it's
wasn't that the one where Kitty Pryde was a pirate and she was like, taking other mutant.
And there's a panda.
I like the one with who was the one that Betsy Braddock became Captain Britain.
Yep. So that was the X of Swords, and that's such a good series.
Confusing, my guy. It's confusing.
I did think it was dumb. They made Psylocke her own entity. I don't know. They're just getting. I know Psylocke is a cool character, and Betsy Braddock is her own character, but it was like that just didn't make.
Well, it's an alternate dimension.
Separated, was it Quantum from Psylocke?
Yeah. So what had happened? It was Psylocke. Her brother was Captain Britain. He renounced the title, so someone had to become the champion of Avalon. She stepped up. So it was Psylocke for the longest time. She ends up dying in like the second or first round of the championship. I believe War kills her, and then however the dimension that Apocalypse comes from, I forgot their name, says, look, we can't wait for this tournament to finish up. We're going to declare war on Avalon and just take Earth through there. So Apocalypse convinces Avalon to join Earth because at this point he's loyal to Krakoa, which is part of Earth. And she's like, okay, fine, I guess I'll resurrect all the Captain Britons. So she resurrects like 15 Betsy Braddocks from different dimensions where she's died. Some of them are Psylocke, some of them are Captain Britain. And it's like, hey, congratulations, you all got promoted for an hour.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay, yeah, because I remember like she was her own character now, and I have the first. I mean, I have all those issues. I remember the first issue where they made Psylocke. That was the Siege Perilous that they all.
I have the collector's cover for the. I can't remember his name, but the older Braddock brother, the puppet master.
It's give me a minute, Maddox.
Maddox, yes.
The multiple man?
No, that's Jamie Maddox.
Yeah.
Okay.
His name is Maddox Braddock.
Yep.
And he actually was like all kind of deformed. His like head was all cocked like this. He's super like gaunt. And I don't even know what his power, because he has a power too.
He pulls on the strings of reality, so he will like he can really pluck on the threads of reality. So he's the mutant version of the Reality Stone. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he gets introduced like in a flash as this former guy, but when he actually shows up in person, he's essentially fixed himself by changing reality, and he just shows up naked in a top hat.
Yep.
And Betsy is very concerned.
Well, I remember, Betsy Braddock how was she introduced? I mean, I have the first issue, Wolverine meets Sabretooth. That was in the Mutant Massacre.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was one of the main storylines where they introduced Betsy Braddock, but I can't remember how they got her. She was, supposed to be British.
Yeah.
Asian British.
Yeah, half Japanese, half British. I believe she has a different mom than Maddox and.
They eventually tried to give her a suit of armor.
Maddox and Brian,
yeah.
And that kind of worked or whatever. She was interesting. I mean, I can understand why Psylocke worked, but she was more of a demure sort of calm character that Psylocke made her the ninja. The ninja lady with the psychic blades, and it was like when the Siege Perilous, when she died, she went through and reappeared. I mean, they showed her she was a ninja in the hand,
mm-hmm.
and I can't remember if she was actually like possessed with the body of somebody else or if she reappeared, but she was in the hand. That was in the 90s. Right? All the girls had to become badasses, so she had to become a ninja. So I'm like, okay, that works, whatever.
Yeah.
And then that's when the one I think where Storm becomes a little kid in Africa again. That's what Gambit finds her. I think that's how. That's
where we get Gambit introduction from.
Yeah. Because they all get scattered, and I was trying to remember where they all ended up. And I think she ended up as a little girl in Africa somewhere, or down south. I don't know. I can't remember. And yeah. That was a weird one because they won that, and that's the one thing I wanted.
Did she end up with the right? Wasn't it the right that caught her when she was a little kid? That's where Gambit came in, I think.
I think it was. She was a thief on the street, and they caught her, and I think he took pity her and like rescued her or something. I have that issue. Because they. I mean, did they?
I remember her having the white suit with the number on it when she was a little kid.
Yeah. Well, didn't they? Did they still keep up the fact that Wolverine and Storm can't be seen by electronic devices, or did they give that storyline up?
Is that legit? Because I never
was that.
Yeah. when all of them came through the Siege Perilous, no electronic devices could pick them up. They're basically invisible to the cameras because they basically were dead. And I come back.
Oh right, yeah. Essentially they had vampire rules. Yeah, they were.
I assume they just over time just kind of mysteriously broke that out.
Well, the idea is that the longer they had spent in 616, they actually came back into like alignment with how the rowdy is supposed to perceive them.
Oh, okay.
Because
I just know if they kept that or not.
Yeah. The idea for like the Marvel timeline, why like you had the Ministry of Time, is they found that the 616 timeline is the one that corrects itself. And so if anyone stays still on 616, they become part of 616, and their home timeline will kind of reject them. Whereas like why all the other timelines get so screwed up is because there's no correcting force there.
Well, that's how we got Miles Morales too.
Mm-hmm.
Like he came to 616 from his ultimate universe.
I thought he was just another guy. He came from an alternate dimension. I thought Miles Morales was supposed to be just another.
He came from a reality where Peter Parker had died. And so he's like, and he always looked up Spider-Man and then realized like, well, I am stupid smart and I got bit by this thing. It was an electromagnetic spider, some weird thing where he ended up being the
it was weird.
Well, because I think in the video game he shoots electricity or can do something.
Yeah, he has little shockers, and he's also can turn invisible. Yeah.
I always thought he was, out of all the Spider-Mans they made, I thought he was the coolest one. I just like his black and red uniform. I thought that was really cool looking.
I like him. Honestly, I like him and Ben Reilly more than Peter Parker.
Yeah, was Ben Reilly?
Ben Reilly.
Yeah.
What was he? He's not one of the Spider-Mans, was he?
He was a Spider-Man clone.
Yep, he's a Spider-Man clone.
Oh, the clone. Okay,
yeah, he's the one that has the blue hoodie. Yeah.
Now Ben Reilly evidently is the main bad guy in Dark Web.
Yeah.
Okay.
Apparently, also they explained that his blue hoodie is apparently like the most expensive part of his costume. It's like, do you know how hard it is to find the right elastic that like gives you enough breathing room but stays attached to your spider suit while you're flying through the air?
Right. Yeah, I would just think like the hood would get in the way or whatever. Yeah. But I mean, it's even they showed like a scene of one of the new trailers where like the Spider-Verse with the two people sitting upside down on a bit, and like even though you can stick to the underground, you know how hard it is to actually like, because you're continuously pushing your legs and everything up fighting gravity. Even if you're sticking, it's not that easy. So but I mean, it's a movie. Whatever. Yeah, I like. Isn't there like a spider? I think they showed her like shoots webs out of her fingertips. Isn't that like silk or something?
Silk, yeah.
Yeah.
So Silk had this like genetic weird mat on to like try and find Peter Parker to mate with him, like aggressively mate with him. It was really weird.
Yeah,
that is kind of weird.
Yeah, the spider pheromones, and I think they had I think he had to like lock her away in Parker Industries for like a week while I found a way to like tamper her hormones to like not react that way.
Okay. Yeah, I remember because there's been so many spider things. And the reason I know this, my friend collects toys and he collects a lot of the Spider-Man toys, and I think they've made a few. Well, I'm like, who's this and who's that? And he's like, it's this. I'm like, oh, okay. So, because I think they've made all those spider. Like, I know, wasn't Gwen Stacy supposed to be from one of the alternate dimensions too, or something? Spider-Gwen.
Spider-Gwen.
So Spider-Gwen is, which now she's not called Spider-Gwen. She's was it Ghost Spider?
Ghost Spider, yeah. Stop calling me your girlfriend's name.
I can actually, that makes more sense.
Yeah. She came over roughly at the same time as was it Super Gwen, the one who followed Deadpool? Gwenpool. So when they run into each other, it's always fun.
What is their big idea? I mean, because Gwen Stacy was a character who died, but why is they? I know there's like Deadpool Gwen. And
so I guess I thought my understanding was it was supposed to be like the anniversary of Gwen Stacy, and so they decided to start bringing her back in like different forms and whatnot.
And then all the Gen Xers and elder millennials are like, our sweetheart is back. You have to buy all the comics. And they're like, it's selling too well.
Okay, is that why she's back permanently? Yeah, because I was like, why did she? I mean, they tried that with Marvel Girl. I can't remember, Jean Grey, but no one likes her, so they all hope she stays dead.
Because you have Jean Grey is now just Grey and is in a weird polyamorous relationship with Cyclops and Wolverine.
where Wolverine is complimenting Cyclops' butt.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah, I'm yeah.
That kind of takes all the fun out of their rivalry, doesn't it?
It's that's interesting, but it's weird. But and they have their daughter, and they also have like this weird semi-nuclear family with the kids. So like Rachel Grey and Cable got in their new resurrected forms live with them, but also they're like, we're from different dimensions. This feels weird, but I guess we just make do.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I know they've been getting really into relationship stuff in the X-Men, and they had that stuff in the comics, but it was never that big. I mean, the big one was Jean Grey and Cyclops, but Storm liked Forge. Rogue was in the Gambit. I'm also trying to think of other ones.
It was Peter and Kitty.
Peter and Kitty,
yeah. Also, fun, weird relationship.
Then they made Peter and Kitty, as in Star-Lord and Kitty.
Yeah. Sorry, Kitty, and then that didn't work out, so Kitty came back. Star-Lord got with Captain Marvel, and they've been on again, off again, but they realize that they're too toxic for each other because he's not attentive and she's too domineering. Like, this is a mismatch. It's like
the great thing about the X-Men girls is they never age, right? I mean, Kitty stayed like young. Didn't they finally make her an adult at some point?
Yeah.
Like quit drawing her young, but draw her as an actual adult.
Yeah. Speaking of fun relationships, that has nothing to do with Christmas, but something that popped in my head that was always hilarious to me. Dracula and Storm. That was a thing. Yeah.
Wasn't that was? I know they had a Dracula in one of the X-Men and Storm. That was way back in the 70s. They bring that back.
They happened in the 70s, and then it's just been the ongoing Toxic X where Dracula keeps on trying to get back with her.
Well, then there was when they redid was it Mutant X Mutant I think it was, where they sent Havoc into an alternate reality. They had, I think her name was Bloodstorm, and it was Storm, and she was indeed turned by Dracula.
Yeah,
so she was an actual vampire.
Well, I remember in the comics, she was actually turned by Dracula, or had turned in the original one, but then they figured out a way to reverse it or something. It was an old comic. It was in the end of the 70s, early 80s.
Yep.
And it was just like a one-off. I thought, didn't she marry Black Panther at a time? At one time?
She did. She became the Queen of Wakanda.
Yeah, and then they had to get a diplomatic separation when the mutants founded Krakoa. Yeah.
Well... So
they've had a couple months where she's used the Krakoan gate to Wakanda, and like, I'm here, but I'm not here. No one knows about this.
You're right.
Yeah,
that's called a mutant booty call.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, the X-Men were kind of, I don't know. There's so many mutants. I understand it, but I mean, some of the powers are always kind of goofy, but I don't know. I've read some things here and there from the library over the years, but nothing that just like, I got to read the X-Men again. I don't know. I just didn't get into it as much.
Yeah.
I kind of left reading X-Men after Grant Morrison, or before Grant Morrison. During Grant Morrison.
Oh, wasn't that the new X-Men?
Yeah.
It was okay. I remember they did Silver Street, and then it was Frank Quietly Silver Street, and then they had this one artist in there that was just horrible. Like the art just took a nosedive. It was like boom. I was like, oh, this is horrible.
I think it was Morrison. I think if you're going to read any of like it's old now, but newer stuff since like the older issues.
Right.
I think it was Morrison who did Magic becoming the Queen of Limbo.
Yep.
That's such a it's a weird and it's a fun storyline.
Sure.
I remember the Beak character beating up Beast or something.
Yeah, because at that same time, I believe that's when you also get Old Man Logan gets introduced and a few other things.
Well, guy with the who's able to make a UFO thing out of his. He had the twin guns and the white trench coat.
Phantomex?
Yeah.
Phantomex or whatever.
Yeah.
And you can never figure out his power except I make this thing out of my snot or whatever. I don't know. I was like trying to figure out what that was.
He was a French super soldier who was made with a combination of the healing factor, a refined version of the techno-organic virus, and the super soldier serum. Yeah, and so, but everything's kept in check by having this AI that's connected to his brain, and that AI is the ship.
Oh, yeah. But that seems overly complicated.
That kind of really when you get to the
then he becomes a girl, right? Then he becomes a girl of some sort.
Yeah, because his mind exists out of his body, so he can just put, he's essentially altered carbon. He can just put his brain into whatever body he wants. So, of course, he's a French spy. He has just a bunch of bodies on tap. So, if he needs to honeypot someone, he just puts his body into a honeypot. Or if he's like,
really weird.
But that gets explained in this run. Nope, that's the wrong one. It's summer. But the series that I keep on going off on with the artist Rocky Kim. That's actually where he explained the relationship between Cable, Fantomics, and Hope, and the European Union's Weapon X project and how those tied in with the Messiah War.
Oh,
it's Messiah War.
I don't know. Like I said, I left a long time ago. I read here and there, but I don't know. I haven't read.
Isn't the Messiah War the one where Deadpool was stuck in a metal box for like 100, 200 years, something like that?
Yeah,
we're slowly eating parts of his body.
Yes, Cable and Hope travel through time, and the body's side machine got broken. So Cable's like, Deadpool, I'm gonna put you in here. I'm gonna come back in 100 years, and you're gonna get us to a place where we can fix this. So the body slide forward 100 years, and Deadpool's still locked in this crate.
There was, I think that you guys read Invincible, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're making a second season. I think that was the only superhero thing that I read. I'm trying to think of other things. Deadpool was like, I remember him just being like, I used to have the first appearance of him. He was just a background character. And then he kind of became his own thing.
Yeah, he was just kind of like a off villain for the X-Men. And then he got
Deadpool?
Uh-huh.
Off villain for the New Mutants.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or X-Force or whatever.
Well, he got turned, and then with a lot of New Mutants villains, he got turned into the X-Force. And then they just kind of let him loose. And like, now you're going to team with Punisher and do this other weird stuff.
Yeah, he was just like this, Merc that had a mouth. That was his nickname, Merc with a mouth. And he would just talk a lot. And,
the running gag was the fact that his healing factor was so intense that he couldn't really die. So they beat him, come back like, freaking you again?
Yeah. So I know they're putting was it Hugh Jackman and because he started a lot with Wolverine.
Yeah, well, Deadpool 3 is going to be freaking massive with everyone who's got confirmed for it because we got Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, Josh Brolin as Cable, Owen Wilson as Mobius. I can't remember her name, but he's
Mobius, the living vampire dude.
That's
Mobius. The dude from Loki.
Yeah,
the Time Agent.
The Time Authority. And Ripper is coming back. We're getting Ripper and Clocky are coming back as well, and a few other.
They're not bringing back the Domino lady. I like the lady who played Domino.
I believe Zazzy's coming back. Yeah. But I believe that was kind of already a given. So all the big other announcements are the fact that Josh Brolin, no one knew if he's ever going to work with Marvel again because he liked the role, but he's a weird guy to work with.
I know he was wasn't the one in the new Mad Max movie?
Josh Brolin?
Yeah,
that was Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy. Okay.
Yeah.
Whoops. Yeah, I couldn't remember.
Yeah, well,
one of my go-to movies. I'm a huge, I love Mad Max.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this has been 90 minutes, and we talked about Santa for maybe 20 minutes of them, but that's what our Tuesday show is.
There's also, just to add in, there's also a Santa comic called Santa the Barbarian.
Yes.
There we go.
Santa the Barbarian. Okay, I have to look this up.
Oh, also, one thing I did want to mention, another weird one-off thing. There's also a Santa and She-Hulk team up where your Santa helps She-Hulk prosecute a case, and then there is the illusion that they might have hooked up.
What?
In Australia. So
what's that big thing is like She-Hulk's getting it on with like
everybody,
Daredevil and stuff. Yeah.
That's the thing. So that's what her thing is, that she, she's really good at fighting. She's really good at luring, and she likes to have a good time.
Evidently.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Anyway, we have been that Silverline Show on Tuesday. We will be dark next week because we will be recovering from the holiday coma. But I believe we do have a Silverline Show on Wednesday still, so 8 p.m. Eastern Wednesday. And we'll see. We'll be seeing you guys in the new year. So hopefully you have a good holiday and enjoy your New Year's, and don't set anything on fire.
Well,
or if you do, be quick with the fire extinguisher.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, well, thank you guys for checking us out. We'll see you next year, and remember to make mine
Silverline.
Hey, I'm Pat Broderick. Make mine Silverline.